Hello, pip pip, cheerio, governor. And to everyone watching, this is Black Sofa, and yes, my British accent does sound a little. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't do that voice. Not seriously. Yep, I am CAP Brony. Black Sofa has kindly allowed me to do this guest video on his channel, and I am very grateful for it. Thank you, Black Sofa, for the honor and the privilege to make this video for your channel. I will be going over the flood story. We will start in Genesis 6 and go all the way up through 8, I believe. And with that, first off, let's talk a little bit about the flood. One, we know the way it's portrayed in the Bible here is completely wrong and false. The whole world never flooded. Did not come close to flooding. It has never happened. We can demonstrate that through multiple things. I mean, alone biology disproves it. Ancient Egypt disproves it because, I mean, we got continuous records from there. The Aztecs, we have records of them. Just so many things disprove a worldwide flood. The flood in question is based off of a local massive flood in the Iraqi floodplain. And mind you, it's called the Iraqi floodplain for a reason. And literally, if you get the however many cubits it says the water rose to, that will be that, which is about 23 feet. And if you get 23 feet of water there, guess what? The whole place will be flooded, and you wouldn't be able to see the treetops, so it would look like your whole world flooded. So at best, it's based on a local flood that got made into a legend. The same flood the Epic of Gilgamesh is based on, even though that's entirely fiction, but I believe it's based on a real event. And guess what? The Epic of Gilgamesh was 500 years prior to the writing of Genesis. So it predates it by 500 years. So, yeah, the Epic of Gilgamesh was around before this, so, and there's a lot of similarities, so odds are it was stolen from it. But let us begin with Genesis 6 verse 5. The verses prior, just so you know, is basically where the Nephilim come from, just for the record. Genesis 6:5 starts with, when the Lord saw that man's wickedness was widespread on the earth, that every scheme his mind thought of was nothing but evil all the time. So yes, all of mankind, because when you refer to man as the way the Bible does here, that is basically mankind. Every single human there, everyone thought was wicked, including the little bitty babies. So remember that when you read this. So all the babies were evil. The Lord regretted that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. Yes, again, now we got another issue here. I mean, this is just each verse has its own issue. So he decided that he regrets it. Well, regret would imply that he made a mistake. He shouldn't have done what he did. But if God's all-knowing, he knew man would get to this point, so why did he regret it? Raises a lot of issues. He also can't be all-knowing if he didn't know what was going to happen, so he could regret it. And he can't be the same forever if he regrets something, because then that means he changed his mind. So I mean, just the first two verses, and we're already in a load of trouble with the Bible because the Bible can't keep its own story straight. Then again, that's pretty common. The Lord said, I will wipe off the face of the earth man whom I created, together with the animals, creatures that crawl, and birds of the sky, for I regret that I made them. Again, we got the issue with regret there, and that raises a problem. Noah, however, found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Now, I know Black Sofa did a video on this. It was actually really good. Of Noah selling his own son, Ham, into slavery, which was the justification of really a lot of the racism and slavery here in the U.S. with the curse of Ham that Noah did. So, yes, this right here is also the beginning of a lot of, you know, just the hatred of everyone. Because Noah was better than everyone else, even though he got butt naked drunk and sold his son because his son didn't cover him up. Because it's like he walked in and goes, oh, well, okay, I'm out of here. Yeah, I don't know many people that want to see their dad naked. Verse 9, that's where we're at now. These are the family records of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among his contemporaries. Yeah, we already covered that. Noah walked with God. Well, why doesn't God do that now? Why doesn't he come down and walk with us anymore? What, is he too good for us now? And Noah fathered 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. Now, let that sink in a bit. The earth is filled with violence. Yet God is one of the most violent characters in all fiction. I mean, he orders the slaughter of babies. And I'm not making that up. There's plenty of... Just read the Old Testament. You read it. I mean, if you don't think he wouldn't, he floods the whole earth and kills all the babies. So, yeah. God saw how corrupt the earth was, for all flesh had corrupted its ways on the earth. Just, yeah, that makes no sense. So, yeah, the babies are corrupt. Congrats. Now you know where the mentality of, oh, even a little baby is a dirty little sinner and deserves hell. Yeah, there's funnies out there who believe that. Then God said to Noah, I have decided to put an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence. Because of them, therefore I am going to destroy them along with the earth. So he will destroy all the animals who haven't done anything wrong. They don't have the consciousness, supposedly, that humans have, even though we know other animals do. So, yeah, that's that's a problem there. So, yeah, we're going to destroy the earth, destroy all the animals, because man screwed up. Yeah, I know, it makes perfect sense, don't it? Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Yeah, that's, most people, from what I've been able to find, believe it to be some sort of like a pine or cypress, only because that's the main sort of trees that were around in that area. So that's what they think it is. We don't know what gopher wood is. Nobody does. So, yeah, as far as we know, it never existed. Make room in the ark and cover it with pitch inside and out. And, yeah, it has a problem here. Because, the way the ark is built, and I'm just going to look at this from a design perspective, large ships at that time had to have pumps to pump the water out, because you can't seal a vessel that large made of wood. It is impossible. Even with pitch, you wouldn't be able to do it. So, alone, it fails just on the building code. And mind you, Noah has no shipbuilding experience whatsoever. No modern technology whatsoever to build this ship. Yet he's going to build a ship that's bigger than any wooden vessel ever made. that required pumps to keep, the water out. Yeah, it's just, there's all kinds of issues with this just so far. But if you're following along with this Bible study, we're in verse 15 now. This is how you make it. The ark will be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Again, the translation I have, which is NIV, they have it converted into feet for, us Americans, or people who, and other metric systems, whatever. But yeah, it goes on to say, you are to make a roof, finishing the sides of the ark to within 18 inches of the roof. Well, so you're going to have an 18-inch overhang. Okay, that's varying on how it's built. Okay, maybe you can make that work. But if you're going to build a house, Ham's ark design actually doesn't really work that well if you know the answer to the Genesis one, because to build a roof, you need a roof on it, and the roof would almost, you could do it that way, but it would be easier to have for that to do it verticals, almost like building a house. But that's neither here nor there. You are to put a door in the side of the ark. Make it with a lower, middle, and upper decks. So there, Ham only says there's only three decks. There could have been more, for all we know. Which, you cut the. But let's look at that with just 3. I guess you could argue 3 there. Let's look at the 3 there. So that is 45 feet divided by 3 is 15 feet. You're figuring you're going to want some really sturdy wood. So you're probably going to want at least 2 inches. So there's 2 inches there, not to mention the part that you have to cut low for the hull. So that way you probably got about maybe 9 feet from floor to ceiling per deck, if you factor in all that has to be taken off. Yeah, you got some problems there. And it goes on to say, we're in 17. Understand that I am bringing a deluge, flood waters on the earth to destroy all flesh under the heaven, with the breath of life in it. Everything on the earth will die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark with your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives. You are also to bring into the ark 2 of every living thing of all flesh, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of birds, according to their kinds, from the livestock among their kinds, and every animal that crawls on the ground according to its kind will come to you, so that way you can keep them alive. Now, this raises some issues here. 1, what is a kind? And 2, all things that have the breath of life. What does it say? One has the breath of life in it. Okay. One issue in here is that people say, people could have gotten on the ark if they wanted. No, they couldn't have. God designed it so only Noah, his sons, and his sons' wives would be on the ark. No one else. And it says, take with you 2 of every kind that is eaten. Gather it as food for you and for them. And Noah did this and did everything that God had commanded. Well, that raises so many more questions because the flood would have killed all. Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that here a little later. Let's look. Then the Lord said to Noah, enter the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you alone are righteous before me this generation. Again, people say, they didn't have to die in the flood. A lot of and creationists claim that. Yeah, they did, because no one else was allowed on the ark. He was not to allow anyone else, per God's orders. So, yeah, God's a genocidal maniac, and proud of it. You are to take with you 7 pairs of male and female of all the clean animals, and 2 of all the animals that are not clean. A male and female, 7 pairs, male and female of the birds of the sky, in order to keep offspring alive for the face of the whole earth. 7 days from now I will make it rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. I will wipe off the face of the earth every living thing that I have made. And Noah did everything that the Lord commanded him. So he got all the animals of the earth together in a week. Yeah. Because he's telling them what to order, and then says a week later I'll send the flood. Well, he didn't get all the animals. If anybody knows the tragic tale of that is told by the great Irish rovers, the unicorn never made it. Peace be unto the unicorn, who sadly could not be saved. Okay, all jokes aside, but it's just, this just makes no sense and half of what it says. So, yeah. Goes on to say, Noah was 600 years old when the deluge came, and water covered the earth. So Noah, his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives entered the ark because of the waters of the deluge. From the clean animals and unclean animals, birds, and every creature that crawls on the ground, 2 of each, male and female, entered the ark with Noah, just as God had commanded it. Just as God had commanded him. 7 days later, the water of the deluge came on the earth. So yes, he did all of this. He got all the animals together from around the world in a week. I don't think Noah had teleportation powers. So, yeah, we got some problems there. Wow. We're not even through this whole study, and we already got a lot of problems. But let's keep going, shall we? In the 600th year of Noah's life, the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day, all sources of watery depths burst open. The floodgates of the skies were open. Well, the sky does not have floodgates. So there's a problem there. I understand it's a figure of speech, but if we're supposed to take this story literal, then everything in it cannot have a metaphor in it. I'm sorry. If one part's a metaphor, it's all a metaphor. We're supposed to take it literal. And rain fell in the day, 40 days and 40 nights. On the same day, Noah, along with his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's wives, and his 3 sons, wives, entered the ark with him. They entered it with all the wildlife according to their kinds, livestock according to their kind, every creature that crawls on the earth according to its kind, the birds that are fowl, and everything within wings according to its kind, 2 flesh that has the breath of life in the ark with Noah. Gotta read that fast because it repeats itself a lot. Yes. Those that entered, male and female, of all flesh, entered just as God had commanded him. Then the Lord shut him in. Now, there are some people some translations that use the breath of life with the nostrils. I don't think this is one of them. And who had the breath of life through their nostrils. Now, if you go with that translation, it then poses a problem for this, because that would discredit insects. Because insects were not able to, they don't have a nose to breathe through. Oh, yeah, actually, it's in here. It's a little down, so we'll cover that here in a minute. The deluge continued 40 days on the earth, and the waters increased and lifted up the ark so it rose above the earth. The waters surged and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the waters. The waters surged and increased greatly. Then the waters surged even higher on the earth, and all the high mountains under the whole sky were covered. The mountains were covered as the waters surged above them more than 20 feet. All flesh perished. Creatures that crawl on the earth, birds, livestock, wildlife, and all creatures that swarm on the earth, as well as all mankind, everything with the breath of life, with the breath of the spirit of life in its nostrils, everything on dry land died. So insects by omission would have had to survive, and if we get everything, so insects survived the Great Flood, but that would discredit all the animals that crawl. See, it talks about having the breath of life in their nostrils, and that's what Noah was supposed to save. But this flood also, if you look at it, would have killed every fish in the world because of the issue with saltwater and freshwater fish. You can't mix them. They don't mix because if you put a freshwater fish in the saltwater, it will die. You put a saltwater fish in the freshwater, it will die. That is why, and unless you're in the Dead Sea, then really no fish can live in there because it's too salty. And it goes on to say, he wiped out everything, living things that was on the surface of the ground, from mankind to livestock, to creatures that crawl, to the birds of the sky, and how they were wiped off the earth. Only Noah was left, and those that were with him in the ark. And the waters surged on the earth 150 days. Now, like I said, a worldwide flood, and surging will refer to the water that was there. So, 150 days it was there, then the water, and so it would then subside. So an entire flooded earth, the water recedes after 150 days. And the whole earth is flooded. Whole earth is covered according to this story. Yeah, something's not adding up, not to mention the issues with all the physics involved, the energy that would be produced by such a rainfall. Not to mention where the hell did the water go? Because if the whole earth was covered, well, where did it come from? Where did it go? If the whole earth was covered, then the whole earth would still probably be covered. Would still be covered today, more or less, because the ground could not absorb all that water. It would be too much for the ground to absorb. Now, says, God remembered Noah as well as all the wild animals, wildlife, and all the livestock that were with him in the ark. So I guess God kind of forgot about him, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I had that man. You know, I trapped a man in an ark. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Well, I should probably take care of that." God caused a wind to pass over the earth, and the water began to subside. So, yeah, that doesn't work. I mean, this right here sounds a lot like wind set down. Now, what that is it's a natural phenomenon that can happen, but you get strong gusts of wind that will push water back. And you can do this at home with a fan. Get a fan, get a tub of water, and point the fan at the water, and it's going to push it back. But there's a problem. Once that wind dies down, guess where that water's going? It's rushing back. And if the water was high enough, was still on the earth, to you push it back, it's going to come flooding back. That's just how it works. So, yeah, it sounds like they're trying to argue wind set down, but it poses a bigger problem because the moment they step off the ark, they're dead. The sources of the watery depths and the floodgates of the sky were closed. Again, there's no floodgates. The rain from the sky stopped. The water steadily receded from the earth, and by the end of 150 days, the water had decreased significantly. The ark, now, so like I said, this would only 150 days for a local flood. That's pretty reasonable for it to start subsiding, so that would work. The ark came to rest in the 7th month of the 17th day of the month on the mountains of Ararat. Now, it says mountains of Ararat, not Mount Ararat. So That's another issue that a lot of people don't seem to know about their Bible. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains were visible. After 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark he had made. Now, mind you, he didn't have this window open yet. So, yeah, imagine all... that poses another problem because they don't have any source of light, so they need a candle. Well, all those animals are going to crap. They're going to be producing, farts. They're going to have a lot of methane. Yeah, you're in a giant bomb. Noah would not have made it through, nor would have any of the animals, because they would have went out with a bang. Now, this is actually where we get a little look into the kinds of animals. They name two kinds of animals. But it poses a problem for anyone who tries to argue at the family level. Right here, we have the species level as to what a kind is. Now, listen up. We're going more at the species here instead of the family. He sent out a raven. It went back and forth until the waters had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see whether the water on the earth's surface had gone down. But the dove found no resting place for her foot. She returned to him and the ark because the water covered the surface of the whole earth. He reached out and brought her into the ark to himself. Noah waited 7 more days and sent out a dove from the ark again. When the dove came to him in the evening, where was plucked an olive leaf in her beak, Noah knew that the water on the earth's surface had gone down. Now, that poses another problem. No olive branch, no olive tree, no branch, no leaves will be around. They would be all dead. There would be no leaves left for the bird to bring back. It goes on to say, he waited another 7 days. He sent out the dove, but she did not return to him again. And in the 601st year, in the first month of the first day, well, okay, you only have 2 doves? Well, you just killed that dove because it didn't return. So we shouldn't have doves today. Congrats, Bible. We have doves today, so I think you might be a little wrong. In the 601st year, in the first month, on the first day of the month, the water that had covered the earth was dried up. Then Noah removed the ark cover and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. By 27th day of the second month, the earth was dry. So the whole earth, after being completely covered by water, finally dried. This story never happened. It is physically impossible for this story, this fable, this stolen fantasy book, because the Epic of Gilgamesh, a lot of similarities between the Epic of Gilgamesh and the story of the flood. It would not happen. It is physically impossible. I am not making that up. It is. And I just showed why. Another issue is, one, we don't have a set kind. I mean, you can't even get a creationist to determine what a kind is. As I said, the Bible clearly in that chapter for a kind refers to the species level. So we got a problem there. And so yes, you have that issue. But we don't even know how many kinds were on the ark. And if we go with the ark's claim of 1470, I believe it is, that poses a bigger problem because that means that they don't accept evolution. People who believe this story is literal, 100% literal, to be taken seriously, the whole world flooded 4,400 years ago, then they have to account somehow for 11 new species appearing every day from then until now. It doesn't work. It can't work because it never happened. But again, I just want to say thank you to Black Sofa for allowing me to make this video. Thank you to him for, just letting me do this. It was a real honor and a real privilege to make this video for your channel. So with that, I will just say this. This is CAP Brony, signing out.